What's up, everybody, and welcome to NFL Nexus. You know, the entire offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Every single plan, every draft board, every ounce of hope, it all comes down to one single question. And the answer? Well, it's in the hands of a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Today, we're going to dig deep into this huge cloud of uncertainty hanging over Aaron Rodgers and see how his decision to play one more year could totally reshape not just the Steelers' future, but the entire AFC playoff race, and maybe even his own legacy. All right, let's get into it.
So this is it. This is the big one. And you've got to understand, this isn't just about who's throwing the football. This decision, it's like the first domino in a massive chain reaction for the Pittsburgh front office. Think about it. We're talking about their whole free agency strategy. I mean, do they have over $40 million in cap space locked up in their quarterback, or are they suddenly shopping for a new leader of the franchise? This totally defines their draft strategy too. Are they looking for a shiny new weapon to help Rodgers win right now, or are they hunting for the quarterback of the future? And of course, it completely dictates their championship goals for the year. So will Aaron Rodgers be under center for one last ride, or are the Steelers about to slam that book shut and start a brand new and, let's be honest, a very uncertain chapter? Believe me, the entire league is watching this one.
Okay, so let's start with the good vibes, the optimistic take. Why in the world would a 42-year-old guy who has absolutely nothing left to prove come back for another brutal 17-game NFL season? Well, you know, despite all the constant chatter and rumors about retirement, there's a really strong belief, especially from the people who cover this team day in and day out, that Rodgers isn't quite done yet. In fact, there's this feeling, you can almost feel it coming out of Pittsburgh, that a return is actually more likely now than it was at this exact same time last year.
Now here's where it gets really interesting, the media whirlwind around this whole thing. The reports we're seeing are complete polar opposites. It's like a fog of war has descended on the team's facility. On one side, you have these national sources reporting there's a minuscule chance he's coming back. And let's be real, that's probably coming from people around the league, maybe even agents for other quarterbacks who would love for that starting job to open up, right? But then, on the other side, you've got this deeply connected local insider who's confidently saying, no, it's more likely than not. This clash is just fascinating because it perfectly shows you the high-stakes game of information and misinformation that really defines every NFL offseason. So who are you supposed to believe, the national narrative or the guy on the local beat? And this quote right here, this is the match that lit the fire of optimism all over Pittsburgh. This is from Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And for anyone who doesn't follow the Steelers that closely, you need to know, Dulac is an institution. He is incredibly plugged into that organization. So for him to put his name on a statement this strong, that the signs are pointing to a return, and even more strongly than last year, that is a massive piece of this puzzle. This isn't just some random guess or him trying to read tea leaves. A reporter with his kind of reputation and access is basing this on real conversations with people who are actually in the know. It tells you that the internal feeling inside that building is one of confident hope.
So, why this sudden good feeling? What in the world happened in 2025 to re-energize a guy who was so openly thinking about his future? Well, according to Dulac, Rodgers was genuinely, truly rejuvenated by how the team finished the season. It wasn't just about putting up big numbers, it was about the pure thrill of competition. For a competitor like Rodgers, winning a tough division title wasn't just another trophy for the case, it was validation. Making it back to the postseason for the first time in years, that mattered to him on a deep, personal level. And maybe most importantly, he played his best, most clutch football when the stakes were the absolute highest, leading the team to 4 wins in their last 5 crucial games. He proved to himself and to every single doubter out there that he absolutely still has something left in the tank. You know that feeling? That's intoxicating. And it is very, very hard to just walk away from that.
And here's a really crucial part of this. This isn't a one-way street. The Steelers aren't just sitting by the phone, crossing their fingers and hoping for a call. No, they are actively trying to recruit him back. They're making it crystal clear, through back channels and public comments, that their plan is to convince him by building a better, more explosive team around him. The message from that front office could not be more direct. If you come back, we will give you the weapons you need to make a serious, legitimate run at a Super Bowl.
So let's talk specifics. What does that promise actually look like? This isn't just empty talk. Head coach Mike McCarthy's offensive system, it's a modern take on the West Coast offense, and it is all about timing, rhythm, and precision. It absolutely requires receivers who are sharp route runners, guys who can create separation in those short to intermediate areas of the field. And honestly, that's something the Steelers were really missing last year, with a 35-year-old Adam Thielen and Marquez Valdes-Scantling as key guys. The plan for 2026 is a major overhaul. They're widely expected to target a receiver high in the draft, maybe even double dip and grab 2, to bring in some young, explosive talent. For a quarterback like Rodgers, whose game at this stage is built on his brain, his accuracy, and that lightning-quick release, having guys who are exactly where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, well, that's everything. You combine that with an already strong tight end room, and suddenly you're showing Rodgers a much, much better offensive toolbox that plays directly to his strengths.
But, of course, it's never that simple. Not with Aaron Rodgers. For every compelling reason for him to come back, there's an equally powerful reason for him to leave. We have to be realistic here. The chance that he retires is very, very real, and we have to look at all the things pushing him towards finally hanging up those cleats for good. And it all starts with this. The single biggest factor in this entire equation, 42. That is how old Aaron Rodgers will be when the next season kicks off. The sheer physical grind of a full NFL season, we're talking practices, travel, the brutal hits, it's punishing for a player in his 20s, let alone his 40s. We've really only ever seen one quarterback, Tom Brady, play at an elite level at that age. This number alone is the foundation for almost all of the retirement talk. You have to imagine, every ache, every morning he wakes up sore, this number is just whispering in his ear.
And it goes beyond just his age. There are other pretty big hurdles. Remember those conflicting reports we talked about? Well, the ones that say there's a minuscule chance of a return are supposedly coming from people close to Rodgers himself, people who think he's really ready to move on. And then there's the huge coaching change. A key reason Rodgers reportedly wanted to come to Pittsburgh in the first place was to play for Mike Tomlin. That relationship, that trust between a veteran quarterback and his head coach, it's everything. With Tomlin gone, a foundational piece of the appeal is just gone. And finally, you have to look at where he is right now. He is simply not in football mode. He is intentionally taking his time, decompressing from the mental and physical beatdown of the season, and that prolonged silence, well, it just naturally creates uncertainty.
And this image, it just perfectly captures his current mindset, doesn't it? While the entire franchise, the whole city of Pittsburgh, and all of the NFL media are basically holding their breath, mapping out these complex scenarios and salary cap models, Aaron Rodgers is skiing. It's such a humanizing little detail that just shows he has mentally and physically stepped away from the game to get some perspective. He's on his own timeline, and that's exactly what's making the team's situation so incredibly tense.
Now, before we read too much into the ski trips and the silence, the new head coach, Mike McCarthy, has given us some really important context. He's called this a normal reset. And you know what? He's right. For veteran players, especially quarterbacks who've been through the NFL meat grinder for almost 2 decades, this period of mental and physical recharging isn't just normal, it's absolutely necessary. You can't make a monumental career decision like this in the emotional high or low right after a season ends. This is part of his process, and it seems like the team, for now, is respecting that.
So, with 2 very different, very plausible endings to this story on the table, how is the franchise actually handling this high-wire act? Well, the answer is pragmatically. The Steelers are not just sitting around hoping for the best. No, they are strategically and actively preparing for both possibilities. And this quote from head coach Mike McCarthy, it really says it all. We're definitely preparing for both scenarios. This isn't just that generic coach speak you hear at a press conference. No, this is the official game plan. It's a statement that admits the massive uncertainty they're facing, but it also projects an image of control and preparedness to the fans and to that locker room. The message is clear. No matter what Rodgers decides to do, the front office will not be caught flat-footed.
So let's break down what preparing for both scenarios actually means. It's a 2-pronged approach, 2 completely different playbooks for the entire offseason. Path A is the simple one. If Rodgers comes back, problem solved. The Steelers have their elite, sure, aging, but still elite quarterback for one more all-in push for a title. Their draft and free agency is just about finding the right pieces to put around him. Path B, that's where things get incredibly complicated. If he retires, the team has to pivot instantly. They'll need to jump into the veteran free agent market, which could mean looking at anyone from Kirk Cousins to Baker Mayfield, or they have to completely tear up their draft board to figure out which rookie quarterback they can build their future around. It changes everything, overnight.
Now, here's the crucial point, and this is a major, major change from how these things have played out in the past. It's the timeline. In 2025, the organization and its fans waited for what felt like an eternity for Rodgers to make up his mind, and that indecision can absolutely paralyze a front office. This time around, they are not letting it drag on. They want, and frankly, they need an answer before the NFL's free agency period officially kicks off. They cannot go into that market with a $40 million question mark hanging over their salary cap. They have to know which path they're walking down before the music starts.
So, we've looked at the powerful arguments for him coming back, we've looked at the very real reasons he might retire, and we've seen the team's backup plan. It all brings us to the final summary of this whole saga.
And this table really lays out the whole dilemma perfectly, doesn't it? When you look at motivation, on one side you have the pure adrenaline and that feeling of rejuvenation from the 2025 postseason run. On the other side, you've got the brutal physical reality of being 42 years old. When you look at the team stance, you've got an enthusiastic new coach promising to add more weapons, but you also have a pragmatic front office that's already getting Plan B ready. The media reports are completely opposite, a true battle of information. And the timeline? Well, it pits a firm franchise deadline against a player who is famous for taking his sweet time and marching to the beat of his own drum.
And that's really what it all boils down to. After all the analysis, all the insider reports, all the fan speculation, and all the careful planning from the front office, it's all on hold. The entire direction of the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise for the 2026 season rests, for better or for worse, on the decision of one single person.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final question to chew on. What is actually the better path to a Super Bowl for the Steelers? Is it one more all-in push with a 42-year-old legend, banking on his experience and brilliance for one last shot at glory? Or is it better to just rip the Band-Aid off now, turn the page, and embrace the uncertainty, but also the potential, of a fresh start? It's a classic choice between the known and the unknown, and the answer is going to shape the NFL landscape. I'm really curious. What do you guys think the Steelers should do? Let us know your take in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more in-depth NFL analysis, be sure to hit that subscribe button for NFL Nexus and like the video. It really does help the channel out. And one last thing, if you're looking for a great gift for anyone in your life, you can help support the channel by purchasing our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, and even adults. You can find them through the link in the description or just by using the QR code you see on your screen now. Thanks for watching.